Alan Murphy stood at the wide window of New Horizon Station, staring at the stars. His fingers touched the cold glass as he looked toward where Proxima Centauri would be, though it was too far to see with the naked eye. Behind him, the memorial wall displayed 3,000 names. His sister's name, Karen Murphy, was among them. 8 months had passed since the Vordak Empire had destroyed the human colony on Proxima B. 8 months of official silence from Earth. 8 months of grief, turning slowly to cold resolve. Alan's communication console beeped. He ignored it at first, lost in memory. The day the news arrived. The official statement calling it a regulatory action by the galactic hegemony against unauthorized expansion. The footage that had leaked anyway, showing the orbital bombardment that had turned the colony to ash in minutes. The console beeped again more insistently. Communications Officer Murphy, he answered, his voice flat. Alan, it's Susan. Admiral Carter needs us in briefing room 3. It's happening. Alan's heart beat faster. Understood, on my way. He took one last look at the memorial wall before leaving. The station corridors were busier than usual. People walked with purpose, their conversations hushed but excited. Everyone knew something was happening, though few knew exactly what. Commander, Susan Ellis waited for him outside the briefing room. Her dark uniform was perfectly pressed, her brown hair pulled back tightly. But Alan could see the same mix of emotions in her eyes that he felt himself. Grief, anger, and the sharp edge of anticipation. How are you holding up? She asked. Ready to do my job, Alan replied. It wasn't really an answer, but Susan nodded anyway. She understood. The briefing room was already half full when they entered. Officers from different departments sat around the oval table, their faces serious. Admiral John Carter stood at the head of the table studying a holographic display showing a massive ship. Officer Murphy, Commander Ellis, take your seats, Carter said without looking up. We're about to begin. Once everyone was seated, Carter dimmed the room lights. The hologram of the ship grew larger, rotating slowly to show its sleek, dark hull. Unlike most Earth vessels, this one had no bright markings or lights. It was made to be hard to see. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the UES Retribution, Carter said. After 8 months of round-the-clock work, she's ready. And today, she launches. A murmur went around the table. Project Nemesis was no longer just rumors and late-night work shifts. It was real, and it was about to begin. For those who haven't been briefed on the full mission parameters, I'll be direct, Carter continued. The United Earth government has officially maintained diplomatic channels with the hegemony, while secretly preparing our response to the Proxima massacre. That response is not a full-scale war, which we cannot win yet, but a demonstration that humanity is not to be trifled with. He tapped a control, and the hologram changed to show a star system Alan didn't recognize. This is the Vordak home system. In 3 days, they host the Hegemony Summit, where representatives from all major powers will gather. Our intelligence indicates that every political leader who approved the Proxima attack will be present. Lieutenant Kate Miller raised her hand. Sir, the Vordak home system is 27 light-years away. Even with our best drives, it would take— We're not using our best drives, Lieutenant, Carter interrupted. We're using theirs. Another ripple of surprise went through the room. For the past 3 years, we've been salvaging and studying Vordak technology from abandoned outposts and debris fields. 6 months ago, we successfully reverse-engineered their hyperspace drive. The Retribution can make the journey in just under 72 hours. Alan leaned forward. They don't know we have this capability? They believe we're at least 50 years away from developing hyperspace technology, Carter confirmed. They also don't know about the quantum displacement, cannon, the phase shift shields, or the neural interface systems. The Retribution carries technology the hegemony thinks is beyond our reach. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth had been playing a long game, pretending to be less advanced than it truly was. Why now? Greg Powell, the science officer, asked. Why not wait until we have a fleet of these vessels? Carter's face hardened. Because the Vordak are planning more regulatory actions. We have confirmed reports that they're targeting our Mars colonies next. as a final warning to humanity. We move now, or we lose more innocent lives. He looked around the room, meeting each officer's eyes in turn. Make no mistake, this is not a suicide mission. This is not a revenge attack where we plan to go down in flames. The Retribution is designed to get in, make our point, and get out. We will not fire first, but we will demonstrate that we can strike at the heart of the hegemony, if provoked again. Susan spoke up. What's our role in this, Admiral? You and Officer Murphy will be on the communication team. When the Retribution appears in Vordak space, we need to control the narrative immediately. Murphy, you'll handle translations and cultural context. Ellis, you'll coordinate with Ambassador Bennett, who's already positioned at the summit under diplomatic cover. Alan nodded, his mind already racing through the complexities of Vordak language patterns. Their language had 6 different forms of address based on perceived power dynamics. He would need to make sure Earth spoke from a position of strength, not supplication. The meeting continued for another hour as Carter outlined the mission phases. The Retribution would drop out of hyperspace directly above the Vordak capital. During the ceremonial fleet review, it would broadcast Earth's response to the massacre and demands for recognition, reparations, and justice. If attacked, it would demonstrate its defensive capabilities before retreating. As the briefing ended, Carter asked Alan and Susan to stay behind. I know both of you lost people at Proxima, he said more gently once they were alone. This mission needs clear heads. Can I count on you? Susan straightened. Absolutely, sir. Alan thought of his sister. Karen had been a botanist, not a soldier. She'd gone to Proxima to grow things, to build a new world. Her last message to him had been about a modified wheat strain that was thriving in the colonies. Greenhouse, Officer Murphy? Carter prompted. Yes, sir, Alan said firmly. Clear head, but I won't pretend I'm not glad to be part of this. Carter nodded. Departure is at 600 tomorrow. Get some rest. As they left the briefing room, Susan touched Alan's arm. This won't bring them back. I know, Alan replied, but it might stop others from joining them. Later in his quarters, Alan packed the few personal items he would take aboard the Retribution. A photo of Karen, a small stone from their childhood home in Colorado, and the dried leaf from that wheat plant Karen had sent him, carefully preserved, in a small frame. Tomorrow humanity would break its silence, and the galaxy would never be the same. The UES Retribution slipped through hyperspace like a shark through dark water. On the bridge, Admiral John Carter sat in the command chair, watching the swirling blue-black void on the main screen. The ship had been traveling for nearly 70 hours, and they would reach Vordak space within the next 2. Status report, Carter said. Lieutenant Kate Miller looked up from her tactical station. All systems nominal, Admiral. Stealth systems functioning at peak efficiency. We should be completely invisible to Vordak sensors. Carter nodded. The Retribution was humanity's masterpiece. A vessel built not just with human ingenuity, but with carefully studied alien technology. Its hull absorbed sensor waves rather than reflecting them. Its engines left no traditional signature. Even its mass was disguised by gravity warping technology that made the massive warship register as nothing more than space debris. Engineering. Report, Carter said into his comm. Frank Howard's voice came through clearly from the engine room. Hyperspace drive is stable, sir. We can maintain this speed for another week if needed, though I wouldn't recommend it. The quantum displacement cannon is powered down but ready for activation on your order. Carter acknowledged the report and turned to Greg Powell at the science station. Any sign they've detected us? Powell shook his head. Not a whisper, sir. Their communication channels show nothing but routine traffic. They're preparing for the summit, discussing security arrangements for visiting dignitaries, but there's no mention of unexpected ships. In the communications center 2 decks below, Alan Murphy and Susan Ellis monitored Vordak transmissions. Alan had written a complex algorithm that sorted through the constant stream of alien communications, flagging anything that might indicate they'd been spotted. Their arrogance is almost impressive, Susan said quietly as they listened to a Vordak military commander discussing the upcoming fleet review. They're so certain of their superiority that they're broadcasting their formation plans on open channels. Alan nodded. They think we're primitives who barely understand radio waves, let alone hyperspace communications. He adjusted a setting, focusing on a different frequency band. Listen to this. They're actually debating whether Earth should be allowed to maintain its Mars colonies or if they should be relocated for better oversight. Susan's face hardened. They're already planning our future as their subjects. Not for long, Alan replied. The door to the communications center opened and Commander Will Peterson entered. As the Retribution's executive officer, Peterson was responsible for coordinating between departments. Admiral wants you both on the bridge for the final approach, he said. We'll drop out of hyperspace in 90 minutes. As they made their way to the bridge, the ship felt alive with tension. The crew of 1,000 had been handpicked, the best pilots, engineers, tacticians, and scientists Earth had to offer. Many, like Alan and Susan, had lost someone at Proxima. Others were simply the finest in their fields. All understood the stakes of their mission. The bridge was hushed when they arrived. Carter gestured for them to take stations at the rear command console. Officer Murphy, we'll need real-time translation when we broadcast. Commander Ellis, I want you to monitor Ambassador Bennett's signal. She'll activate her beacon when the summit plenary session begins. Yes, sir, they responded in unison. Carter turned to address the entire bridge crew. In 1 hour, we make history. The Vordak and the hegemony believe they taught humanity a lesson at Proxima. They expect us to be cowed, to withdraw from the stars, to accept their protection and limitations. He paused, his eyes moving from face to face. Instead, we're about to teach them something about human nature. When we're attacked, we don't cower. We plan. We adapt. We respond. He stood straighter. But we are not here for revenge. We're here for justice and recognition. We will not fire first. We will not harm civilians. We are soldiers of Earth, not murderers like those who destroyed Proxima. The final hour passed in methodical preparation. Each station ran diagnostics, confirming weapons, shields, communications, and engines were ready. The medical bay prepared for possible casualties, though they hoped there would be none. The hangar bay secured the small complement of fighters, though they would only launch if absolutely necessary. Hyperspace exit in 3 minutes, announced the navigation officer. Carter opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, secure for potential combat. This is not a drill. Throughout the Retribution, crew members strapped into acceleration chairs or held onto secure handholds. In engineering, Frank Howard watched his systems carefully. The transition from hyperspace to normal space was the moment when they would be most vulnerable. 2 minutes, called navigation. On the Vordak homeworld below, the summit was underway. The great amphitheater in the capital city was filled with representatives from 24 alien species, all members of the hegemony. Ambassador Laura Bennett sat in Earth's designated seat, a small chair at the back, befitting what the hegemony considered a minor species. She checked her hidden communicator. The signal was active. The Retribution would know exactly when to make its appearance. 1 minute, said navigation. Kate Miller's hands flew over her tactical console. Weapons systems on standby. Phase shift shields ready to activate the moment we exit hyperspace. Greg Powell monitored his sensors. No indication. They've detected our approach. Their orbital defense grid is operating in standard configuration. 30 seconds, said navigation. Alan's fingers tensed over his communication console. The translation matrix was primed, ready to convert Admiral Carter's message into the high formal dialect of Vordak leadership speech. 15 seconds. Susan. Established the secure link to Ambassador Bennett's position. They would see what she saw, hear what she heard. 10 seconds. Carter's voice was calm. On my mark. Drop stealth systems and broadcast on all hegemony frequencies. 5 seconds. 4. 3. 2. 1. The swirling chaos of hyperspace vanished, replaced by the stark blackness of normal space, sprinkled with stars. Directly ahead, the Vordak homeworld hung like a blue-green jewel, surrounded by the pinpoints of light that were orbital stations and defense platforms. and directly below them, arranged in perfect formation for the ceremonial review, was the entire Vordak home fleet, 100 warships, their weapons powered down for the display, their sensors focused outward rather than above. "We are in position," reported navigation. "Holding at 30,000 kilometers above the capital city." Carter nodded. "Disengage stealth systems, raise shields. Open broadcast on all hegemony frequencies." Alan's console lit up as the signal went out. On the main screen, they could see through Ambassador Bennett's hidden camera as alarms began to sound in the summit chamber. Alien faces turned toward information screens that suddenly showed the Retribution hanging above their world like a sword. "This is Admiral John Carter of the United Earthship Retribution," Carter said, his voice steady. "To the leaders of the Galactic Hegemony, 8 months ago, you destroyed our colony at Proxima Centauri. You killed 3,000 innocent civilians. You believed we would stay silent." He paused. "We are silent no more." Chaos erupted in the Hegemony Summit chamber. Through Ambassador Bennett's hidden camera feed, the crew of the Retribution watched alien delegates leaping from their seats. Security officers rushed to surround the Vordak High Chancellor Krex, whose gray-scaled skin had paled to an ashy white. "How is this possible?" Krex demanded, his voice translated through Alan's communication system. "No human vessel could reach our homeworld. Their technology is primitive." Ambassador Laura Bennett stood calmly amid the panic. Though she appeared small compared to the taller alien species around her, her voice carried across the chamber with surprising strength. "Chancellor, perhaps you should reconsider your assessment of human capabilities," she said. "The UES Retribution awaits your response to Admiral Carter's message." On the bridge of the Retribution, Carter nodded approvingly at Bennett's composure. "Officer Murphy, open a direct channel to Chancellor Krex." Alan's fingers moved across his console. "Channel open, sir." Carter leaned forward in his command chair. "Chancellor Krex, this is Admiral Carter. I request your presence in direct negotiations regarding the Proxima Centauri incident. We are prepared to discuss terms." The main screen split to show Krex's face on one side, Bennett's camera feed on the other. The Vordak leader had regained some of his composure, but his eyes darted nervously to advisors off-screen. "This is an unprecedented violation of hegemony space," Krex said. "Your actions could be considered an act of war." "With respect, Chancellor," Carter replied, "the unprovoked destruction of our colony was the act of war. Our presence here is a response to that aggression." Lieutenant Kate Miller leaned toward Carter. "Sir, the Vordak fleet is breaking formation. 20 ships are moving to surround us." Carter nodded but kept his eyes on Krex. "We detect your vessels moving to offensive positions, Chancellor. I advise against hostile action. The Retribution possesses defensive capabilities beyond what you might expect." On the tactical display, the Vordak ships formed a sphere around the Earth vessel. Susan Ellis monitored communications between the alien ships. "They're coordinating an attack pattern," she reported. "Standard Vordak encirclement. They plan to fire simultaneously from all directions." Greg Powell looked up from his science station. "Their weapons are powering up, Admiral." "Phase shift shields at full power," Carter ordered. "No offensive actions, without my direct command." On screen, Chancellor Krex's expression shifted to something like smug satisfaction. "Admiral Carter, you have made a grave miscalculation. One human ship, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against 20 Vordak cruisers. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded, and perhaps we will show mercy to your crew." Carter's face remained impassive. "Chancellor, I urge you to reconsider. We have no desire for bloodshed." "You should have considered that before bringing your ship to our homeworld," Krex snapped. Then he gave a signal to someone off-screen. Frank Howard's voice came through from engineering. "Energy spike. Detected from all surrounding vessels. They're firing." 20 beams of intense energy converged on the Retribution from all directions. The bridge crew tensed, but Carter remained calm. "Shields holding," reported Kate Miller, sounding almost surprised despite her confidence in the technology. "No damage to any systems." On screen, Chancellor Krex's expression shifted from satisfaction to disbelief as the status reports reached him. The Retribution hung unchanged in space, surrounded by the fading glow of absorbed energy. Impossible, he whispered. Carter leaned forward. Chancellor, as I was saying, we have no desire for bloodshed, but neither will we accept further aggression. Perhaps now we can discuss terms as equals. In the summit chamber, the other hegemony representatives watched in stunned silence. Many had retreated to the far walls, but now they moved forward again, eyes fixed on the screens showing the undamaged Earthship. Ambassador Bennett stepped into the center of the chamber. The United Earth Government proposes the following terms: recognition of human sovereignty in our home system and all currently established colonies, reparations for the families of those killed at Proxima Centauri, and a trial for those who ordered the attack. General Mox, the Vordak military commander, pushed forward. This is some trick. No shield technology could withstand concentrated fire from 20 cruisers. Would you care to try again, General? Carter asked calmly. Perhaps 30 ships next time? Or shall we demonstrate some of our offensive capabilities instead? Krex raised a hand to silence Mox. What guarantee do we have that there aren't more human ships waiting to attack? The same guarantee you gave us before destroying Proxima, Carter replied evenly. None at all. The implications hung in the air. The Vordak had attacked without warning, believing humans had no recourse. Now the situation was reversed. The hegemony had no way of knowing if the Retribution was alone or the first of many. We require time to consider these demands, Krex said finally. You have 12 hours, Carter replied, during which time the Retribution will maintain its position. Any further aggressive actions will be met with appropriate response. As the communication ended, the bridge crew of the Retribution remained tense but professional. Kate Miller kept her eyes on the tactical display, tracking the Vordak ships, as they maintained their distance but did not withdraw. They'll try something else, Susan predicted. Their entire power structure is based on military dominance. They can't accept being outmatched, Alan nodded. But they'll be more cautious now. They'll want to understand our technology first. Carter turned to Greg Powell. Can they penetrate our shields with their current weapons? Powell shook his head. Not likely, sir. The phase shift technology displaces the energy into subspace. They would need to increase their firepower by at least 300% to have any chance of breaking through. And do they have that capability? Based on our intelligence, their capital ships could theoretically reach those levels, but not the cruisers currently surrounding us. Carter nodded thoughtfully. They'll bring in bigger guns soon enough. Keep monitoring their communications, Officer Murphy. I want to know the moment they change tactics. In her position at the summit, Ambassador Bennett faced increasing pressure. Representatives from other hegemony species approached her with a mixture of fear and newfound respect. How long has Earth possessed these technologies? Asked the Tellarite ambassador, his trunk-like nose quivering with agitation. Earth has always pursued advancement at our own pace, Bennett replied diplomatically. We preferred peaceful exploration, until recent events forced us to reveal more of our capabilities. The 12-hour deadline Carter had given would be a tense waiting game. On the Retribution, crew members rotated through their shifts, maintaining constant vigilance. In the mess hall, off-duty personnel spoke in hushed voices about what might come next. Alan took his meal tray to a table where Susan sat alone, staring at a small hologram of Proxima B. Thinking about what we lost? He asked quietly. She nodded. And what we might gain. Not just revenge, but respect. A place in this galaxy where we don't have to fear another massacre. Alan looked around at the determined faces of his fellow crew members. Whatever happens in the next 12 hours, the galaxy will never see humanity the same way again. Above the Vordak homeworld, the Retribution waited, a silent promise that humanity's voice would never again be ignored. 9 hours into the 12-hour deadline, the situation around the Vordak homeworld changed dramatically. Alan Murphy detected a surge in communication traffic between the planet and the outer reaches of the system. Admiral, he called out. Massive. Energy signatures detected at the edge of the system. The Vordak are bringing in reinforcements. Carter moved to Alan's station and studied the data. How many ships? At least 30, sir. And these are capital ships, much larger than the cruisers, currently surrounding us. Greg Powell joined them, his face grim. Sir, based on these readings, they're bringing in dreadnoughts. Each one carries enough firepower to level a small continent. The bridge grew quiet as the implications sank in. The Retribution's shields were impressive, but they had never been tested against weapons of this magnitude. Time until they reach our position? Carter asked. 3 hours at their current speed, Kate Miller reported from Tactical. Just before our deadline expires. Carter nodded thoughtfully. They're hoping to arrive with overwhelming force right as negotiations would conclude, a show of strength to counter ours. Sir, Susan Ellis called from her station. Ambassador, Bennett is sending an urgent message from the summit. On the main screen, Laura Bennett's face appeared. She looked composed, but her eyes betrayed concern. Admiral, the Hegemony Council has called an emergency session. They're debating a unified response to our demands. But I've received intelligence that the Vordak are stalling until their fleet arrives. We've detected their reinforcements, Carter confirmed. Recommendations, Ambassador? Push for immediate negotiations. The other hegemony species are rattled by our show of force. Many are questioning whether they want to be dragged into a conflict with Earth. If we can reach an agreement before the Vordak fleet arrives, we might split the hegemony's unified front. Carter considered this. Can you arrange a direct meeting with the full council? I believe so. Several representatives have approached me privately. They're curious about Earth and our technology, and frankly, many have their own grievances with Vordak dominance. Make it happen, we'll be ready. As the communication ended, Carter turned to his officers. We need a contingency plan if negotiations fail. Commander Ellis, work with Lieutenant Miller on evasive strategies. We may need to retreat when those dreadnoughts arrive. Yes, sir, Susan replied. Officer Murphy, I want you to prepare a detailed translation of Earth's position for all hegemony species. Make it clear that our quarrel is specifically with those responsible for Proxima, not with the hegemony as a whole. Understood, Allen said. And Frank? Carter said into his comm to engineering. How's our quantum displacement cannon? Fully charged and ready, Admiral, Frank Howard replied. But I should remind you that it's never been field tested. We're not entirely sure what will happen when we fire it. Let's hope we don't need to find out, Carter said. 2 hours later, the Retribution senior officers gathered in the ship's conference room. A large holographic display showed the approaching Vordak fleet. 35 capital ships, including 5 dreadnoughts moving in tight formation. They'll arrive in just under an hour, Kate Miller explained. Their current trajectory suggests they plan to surround us in a layered formation, with the dreadnoughts positioned to fire from maximum range. Can our shields withstand concentrated fire from all 5 dreadnoughts? Carter asked. Greg Powell shook his head. Not for long, sir. Maybe 30 seconds at most. Frank Howard leaned forward. The quantum displacement cannon could potentially disable 1, maybe 2 dreadnoughts with a single shot, but using it would reveal another advanced weapon they don't know we have. Carter nodded. Which we save as a last resort. Our mission is diplomatic, not military. On screen, Ambassador Bennett appeared again. Admiral, I've arranged an emergency council session. It begins in 10 minutes. All hegemony representatives will be present, including Chancellor Krex. Well done, Ambassador. We'll join via secure link. The conference room transformed as holographic projectors created a 3-dimensional representation of the Hegemony Council chamber. The Earth officers found themselves virtually seated at a large circular table across from alien representatives of 24 different species. Chancellor Krex sat at the head of the table, his gray-scaled face hard with barely contained anger. This council session has been called at the request of Earth's representative, he announced coldly. We will hear their position before our defense fleet arrives to resolve this situation permanently. Ambassador Bennett stood, her small human figure somehow commanding attention among the larger alien forms. Honored representatives of the galactic hegemony. 8 months ago, a terrible crime was committed against my species. 3,000 human colonists, scientists, farmers, teachers, children, were killed without warning or provocation. She activated a small device that projected images of Proxima b before the attack, a small but thriving colony with greenhouses, laboratories, and residential areas. This was Proxima Centauri b, humanity's first extrasolar colony, she continued. Its purpose was peaceful research and development. It possessed no military capabilities. Then she showed images from after the attack, smoking craters, shattered domes, bodies lying in the ruins. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. The Tellarite representative's trunk curled in what appeared to be distress. The Vordak government has characterized this attack as a necessary regulatory action. They claimed humans were expanding too rapidly, too independently. Bennett's voice remained steady. But I ask you, does this look like regulation? Or does it look like massacre? Chancellor Krex slammed a clawed hand on the table. The humans violated established protocol for expansion. They failed to register their colony with hegemony authorities. Because Earth is not a hegemony member, Bennett countered. We were never given the option to join as equals. Instead, we were told to accept oversight and limitations on our development. Admiral Carter spoke now, his holographic form rising beside Bennett. Honorable representatives, Earth does not seek war with the hegemony. We seek recognition as a sovereign power, reparations for our murdered citizens, and justice for those who ordered this attack. And if these demands are not met? Asked the representative of the Galosian Confederation, a blue-skinned humanoid with elaborate head crests. Then we will demonstrate that humanity cannot be coerced or controlled through violence, Carter replied evenly. The Retribution is only one ship, but it represents Earth's determination to exist as a free people. General Mox, seated beside Krex, sneered. Your single ship will soon face 35 of our finest vessels. Your shields may have surprised us once, but they cannot withstand what is coming. Alan Murphy, monitoring communications during the council session, suddenly straightened in his chair. Admiral, he said urgently, cutting into the diplomatic feed. The Vordak fleet has increased speed. They'll be in weapons range in 15 minutes, not 50 as previously calculated. Carter's expression didn't change, but his voice took on a harder edge. It seems, council members, that the Vordak intend to end these negotiations with military force rather than diplomacy. The council chamber erupted in confusion. Several representatives turned accusingly toward Krex, who had clearly not informed them of the accelerated military approach. What will you do? Asked the Tellarite representative. Carter looked directly at Krex. We came prepared for either outcome, peace or war. The choice remains yours, Chancellor. The diplomatic feed minimized as Carter turned to his officers. Battle stations, prepare for engagement. Throughout the Retribution, crew members hurried to their posts. In engineering, Frank Howard made final adjustments to the quantum displacement cannon. On the bridge, Kate Miller calculated targeting solutions while Susan Ellis monitored the approaching fleet. Alan Murphy returned to his communication station, fingers flying over the controls. Sir, multiple communications between hegemony ships. Several non-Vordak vessels are breaking formation, moving away from the conflict zone. The hegemony is fracturing, Susan said. Not everyone wants this fight. Carter nodded grimly. But the Vordak do, and they're about to learn exactly what humanity is capable of when pushed too far. The Vordak fleet spread across space in attack formation, their massive dreadnoughts at the center. On the Retribution's main screen, the ships looked like predators closing in on prey. The bridge crew worked with focused intensity, no one speaking except to relay essential information. 5 minutes until they're in firing range, Kate Miller reported. Admiral Carter stood in the center of the bridge, his face calm despite the overwhelming force arrayed against them. Shield status? At maximum power, Greg Powell replied from the science station. But as discussed, they won't hold long against concentrated fire from those dreadnoughts. Carter nodded. Officer Murphy, open a channel to Chancellor Krex. One last attempt. Alan's fingers moved across his console. Channel open, sir. The main screen split, showing the Vordak fleet on one side and Chancellor Krex's scaled face on the other. The Chancellor looked triumphant. Admiral Carter, Krex said with a sneer. Your time has expired. The full might of the Vordak Empire is about to descend upon your single ship. Do you wish to surrender? Chancellor, this conflict can still be resolved peacefully, Carter replied. Neither of us wants a war that will cost countless lives. Krex laughed, a harsh sound. You speak of peace while threatening our homeworld? Your ship may have impressive defenses, but it cannot stand against 35 capital ships. This will be a short battle, Admiral. Before Carter could respond, Susan Ellis called out from her station. Sir, we're receiving multiple transmissions from hegemony representatives. The screen split again, adding the faces of several alien leaders. The Tellarite representative spoke first, his trunk waving agitatedly. Chancellor Krex, the Tellarite Confederation does not support this military action. We withdraw our ships from this engagement, as do the Galosians, added another alien leader. This conflict with Earth was not approved by the full council. One by one, representatives of 7 hegemony species announced their withdrawal from the battle. On the tactical display, nearly a third of the approaching fleet broke formation, moving to neutral positions away from the Vordak ships. Krex's face contorted with rage. Cowards! The Vordak Empire needs no help to crush one human vessel. The Tellarite representative turned to Carter. Admiral, many within the hegemony found Ambassador Bennett's evidence compelling. We had no knowledge of the full circumstances of the Proxima attack. We request time for the Council to formally review Earth's demands. Carter nodded respectfully. Earth would welcome a peaceful resolution through the full Council. This is treachery, Krex snarled. The Vordak fleet will proceed as planned. Fire when in range. The screen returned to showing only the approaching Vordak ships, now 23 vessels instead of 35, but still including all 5 dreadnoughts. 2 minutes to firing range, Kate reported. Carter turned to Frank Howard, who had come to the bridge from engineering. Chief Howard, is the quantum displacement cannon ready? Yes, sir. Target locked on the lead dreadnought. Carter's expression was grim. We didn't come here to start a war, but we will defend ourselves. He opened a ship-wide channel. All hands prepare for combat. This is not a drill. Throughout the Retribution, crew members braced themselves. In the medical bay, doctors prepared for casualties. In engineering, technicians monitored power levels. In the small fighter bay, pilots stood ready beside their craft, though they knew their small ships would have little effect against the massive Vordak vessels. 1 minute to firing range, Kate announced. Suddenly, Alan straightened at his console. Sir, new transmission from the Hegemony Council chamber. The main screen changed to show Ambassador Bennett standing before the full council. Beside her stood an unexpected figure, High General Zarn, the senior military commander of the Vordak Empire and Krex's superior. This is High General Zarn of the Vordak Empire, the older alien announced, his voice carrying the weight of authority. By emergency vote of the Imperial Command, Chancellor Krex has been removed from leadership for exceeding his authority. I order all Vordak vessels to stand down immediately. The bridge crew of the Retribution exchanged shocked glances. Vordak fleet is slowing, Kate confirmed, watching her tactical display. They're powering down weapon systems. On screen, Zarn continued. The attack on the human colony was authorized by Chancellor Krex without proper Imperial approval. The Vordak Empire acknowledges this error and agrees to the Council's proposal for formal review of Earth's demands. Ambassador Bennett stepped forward. Admiral Carter, the Hegemony Council requests a 48-hour ceasefire to discuss terms. Do you accept? Carter nodded. On behalf of Earth, I accept. The tension on the bridge eased slightly, though no one fully relaxed. This was an unexpected development, but the situation remained delicate. Keep shields at maximum, Carter ordered. This could still be a trick, but as the hours passed, it became clear that a significant shift had occurred within the hegemony power structure. Reports came in of Krex being taken into custody. The Vordak fleet maintained its distance, weapons powered down. Representatives from multiple hegemony species requested meetings with Ambassador Bennett. In the ship's conference room, Carter met with his senior officers to assess the situation. What just happened? Susan asked what everyone was thinking. Greg. Powell studied data on his tablet. Based on intercepted communications, it appears Krex's handling of the Proxima incident and this confrontation triggered a power struggle within the Vordak Empire. Several factions opposed his aggressive approach. When 7 hegemony species withdrew their support, it gave Zarn the leverage to move against him. "So we got lucky?" Frank Howard asked. Carter shook his head. "Not luck. The Retribution's appearance demonstrated that humans are more advanced than they believed. It forced the hegemony to reassess the cost of conflict with Earth, and Ambassador Bennett's presentation of evidence turned hegemony opinion against the massacre. Together, it created a political opening that Zarn exploited." Allen added, "I've been monitoring hegemony communications. Many species are now questioning Vordak leadership. This could lead to significant restructuring of the entire hegemony." 3 days later, the Retribution remained in orbit above the Vordak homeworld, but under very different circumstances. The Hegemony Council had formally recognized Earth's sovereignty and agreed to significant reparations for the Proxima victims. Those responsible for ordering the attack, including former Chancellor Krex, would face trial before an interspecies tribunal. Most importantly, humanity had been invited to join the hegemony as a full member with equal rights, not as a subject species. On the observation deck, Alan Murphy stood before a viewport, looking down at the alien world below. Susan Ellis joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Thinking about Karen?" she asked softly, handing him one of the cups. Alan nodded. "She would have found this all fascinating. A new alien world, diplomatic breakthroughs." He paused. "But I'm not sure she would have approved of how we got here, threatening an entire planet." "We never fired a shot," Susan reminded him. "The Retribution did exactly what its name promised. It set things right, not through destruction, but by showing strength and restraint." Admiral Carter's voice came over the ship-wide comm. "All hands prepare for departure. Our mission here is complete. We return to Earth with news of peace, not war." As the Retribution powered up its engines, Alan took one last look at the Vordak homeworld. Humanity had come to the stars in peace, suffered a terrible loss, and responded not with blind vengeance but with calculated strength and justice. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The ship turned gracefully and accelerated toward open space, its mission accomplished. They had not stayed silent. They had made humanity's voice heard across the stars, and now they were going home.